Hello, everyone. Hello, Bina. Hello, hi, Katie. Mondria Sen, hi. Hi, Sagar. Hi, Srikant. Hey, hi, Anand. All right, a lot of people now. Fantastic. Good. Very good. All right. Hello, welcome to another webinar, panel discussion of Hurix this year, folks. We are super thrilled, of course, and excited to do this webinar with you all. And so first and foremost, thank you for joining us today. I hope you and your family are keeping safe and sound. And please go take that jab if you haven't already. That's going to keep you and the folks around you safe. All right. I see a good number of people joining in, which is fantastic. And this session is also recorded. So let's kind of start this webinar in a minute, right? And for the people who are here, all right, let's kind of talk about some of the ground rules over here. Okay. Now, before I start with this, can I get a quick yes from the audience if you can hear me okay? Hi, Mina. Yes, good. A lot of yeses. Fantastic. All right. So my voice is good. And I hope you can hear me out well and clear. That is fantastic. All right. With that, let's kind of talk about the ground rules here. The webinar is going to cover a lot of topics, various topics and details. Okay. So it's more of a panel discussion, right? The panel discussion is going to kind of cover a lot of topics. Let me put it in that way. And if you have any questions, because this is going to have a lot of questions, please feel free to type them in the Q&A section that you see at the bottom, right? And if you have anything to say in specific as we kind of talk, please leave them as a comment in the chat session. I will try picking that up and talk about that too. So this is going to be a 1 hour panel discussion. It's all about people sitting and talking over here, all right? And we will keep the last 15 to 20 minutes for the Q&A session too. All right, so I will try taking the questions, what you have, put it up over here, and our panel will talk about it too. All right? All right, then so the base rule has been set with more number of people joining in. Sit back, relax, grab that coffee or the beer, whichever you have or wherever you are sitting right now. Let's kind of begin right now, okay? Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone who's attending this webinar across the globe. We thank you once again for taking your time and jumping into this webinar at this hour, right? So today's topic is pretty interesting. Balancing learner engagement with learning effectiveness. Sounds a little complicated, but if I have to kind of put it in simple words, it's all about decoding learners' engagement, right? Now, before I kind of talk about that, I thought, let me kind of put what learners engagement is all about, right? So learners engagement refers to how actively involved and immersed learners are with the course that they are taking, right? That's something what we all know, right? But for the course to be successful, everyone involved must be engaged. Now, this means that there's an interaction, cooperation, consist among participants and trainers. The result is a user experience that is useful and intellectually satisfying. It's time to go deep. What is learner engagement and how do we make it happen? There's a lot of people here who design courses. We got to understand this, really, really well. And the better we understand, the better the course design is going to be. I have many questions and I'm going to get them answered by not anybody, but by the experts in the field. We have 3 wonderful panelists to answer all the questions. So let me introduce them one by one. Madhvi Diwali. She's the Senior Director of Learning Strategy and Design at Hurix Digital. Madhvi brings about 20 years of instructional design experience in the corporate workforce e-learning space. Since the beginning of her design career, she has been having the privilege of leading the need analysis and instructional design on e-learning projects for global clients. She's been known for her creative learning solutions and has worked as a design consultant across various countries and clients, let's say Dubai, London, Hong Kong, Zurich, Florida, you name a city, she was there helping a client on this particular side of it. Welcome, Madhvi.
Thank you, Bala. Great to be here.
Fantastic. The next person is Surbi Sharma. She's the Associate Director, Instructional Design at Hurix Digital. Surbi is an instructional designer with extensive experience in analyzing learning needs, designing and developing learning interventions for a variety of industries. Now, Surbi has been very, very active in the e-learning industry for over 17 years and is known of a pragmatic approach to instructional design based on the established principles of adult learning. Super excited to have you, Surbi. Welcome to the panel.
Thank you. Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
Fantastic. And the final panelist, Gagandeep Kaur. She's the Senior Manager, Instructional Design at Hurix Digital. Gagan is a passionate learning, design, and development professional with extensive experience in strategizing and leading the design, development, and delivery of workforce learning solutions. In fact, she is soon to complete a PhD in the field of organizational behavior. Gagan has also authored a research paper around employee engagement. Super excited. Welcome, Gagan, to the panel.
Thank you, Bala. Thanks for this lovely introduction. And hi, everyone.
Very good. And I'm Bala Subramaniam, I ask for me, called as Bala, and I'm the AVP Marketing at Hurix Digital, going to be your host, asking and also taking your questions with our wonderful panel. Right? So let's kind of begin, shall we? All right. Now, before I get into the questions, I want to kind of say this. We are all colleagues. We all always work on these projects of our clients. We ask a lot of questions to clients, to the people, to all the experts who are always there with us, right? So today we are going to do the same thing with you all along with your questions. So I'm super, super excited. All right. So let's kind of start with the very first question, which I have it over here. All right. Now, the first thing is, I'm kind of intrigued by the topic over here, to be honest. Balance learner engagement and learning effectiveness over here. Now, why I say that is because I always thought that learner engagement leads to effective learning. So for me, the two terms kind of go hand in hand. One leads to another, isn't it? That's an open question to the panel. Who wants to take that up?
I'll take that up, Bala, and I agree with you, totally agree with you. You're right about that. We all know from our own experience as learners that when we are engaged in the process of learning, we learn better, the outcomes are better. That goes without saying. That's something everyone knows from experience. But in recent times, the word learner engagement has taken on a slightly different meaning. And I'm saying this because we interact with a lot of learning and development folks across industries. And I've noticed that when they're talking about learner engagement, they actually mean maybe the number of people who've participated in the program, completed the program, or if they're not talking about that, they're talking about probably thinking in terms of slick visuals, animations, maybe gamification, simulations, augmented reality, and whatnot, virtual reality, all sorts of technologies that are used for engagement. Now, these are the more visible, eye-catching aspects of learner engagement. Driven by technology, and such experiences are typically quite engaging and very enjoyable, really. But that does not mean that they are, that does not really mean that every learning experience that makes use of these media or technologies is actually effective. In my view, for learning to be effective, learners need to be engaged at a more cerebral level. We have all gone through some really intense learning experiences, and if you think back and remember those experiences, you'll know that those were the experiences that made us think, made us seek answers, made us reflect on certain aspects of the problem, made us solve problems. And to me, that is true learner engagement. Now, this can this can be done in various ways, and technology no doubt makes it possible for us to engage learners in a lot of different ways. Technology also helps us scale exponentially so that we bring those experiences to a larger audience, much larger audience. But even as we embrace these technologies for better engagement, it is important, it's actually crucial to keep an eye on effectiveness always. And that's the balance we're talking about, Bala.
All right.
Balancing engagement with effectiveness. Yeah.
I'll 100% agree with you. I mean, like you said, with all the technological advancement, it is important to keep an eye on learning effectiveness always, right? But this just triggered another question for me, right? Learner engagement is all about making learning a fun experience, right? Isn't it?
I'll take that. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So yeah, well, I would say yes and no. Yes, the fun part is important. And as you said at the beginning, we all understand that learning engagement is about engaging the learner in the learning process or the experience. It's about immersing the learner, being immersed in the learning process. But we all know that almost all, if not all of the workforce trainings that we do are kind of mandatory, right? You and I, we've done enough compliance or regulatory or other work-related trainings that we need to do, right? So people need to take these trainings. Now, while the learner comes to the learning environment or to the training because they need to, the aim of all learner engagement is essentially that people complete that training because they want to. So now this bridge between the need and want is what we aim to build through learner engagement. And, we now know that, of course, engagement tends to better transfer and retention of knowledge, of skills, or whatever the performance objective is of the training. And this better retention and better transfer of knowledge will eventually translate into an on-the-job performance, which is ultimately what we want out of the training.
Right.
So yes, definitely, fun plays a crucial part in the training. It drives their commitment and motivations to complete their training, I would say willingly and eagerly and actively, rather than in the forced and passive manner. But then the no part, right? The pertinent question here is, does this fun learning experience necessarily translate into better performance on the job? Learner engagement alone cannot result in that. And if fun trainings was led to more enabled or a skilled or a competent workforce, well, we had our answer there, right? We would simply design fun trainings, and that would be a straightforward solution to ensuring an effective training as well. So
yeah, that's I mean, I agree with Surabhi, and that really reminds me of an experience from a few years ago.
yeah.
So this was a time when virtual reality headsets had just come out into the market, and there was a lot of buzz around the technology. And for learning and development, it was this new thing to do. And this technology, of course, presented a tremendous opportunity for learner engagement as well. There's no doubt about it. We had prospective clients reaching out to us, asking, show us what you could, what you can do for them. What can you do for us with this technology? And when that happened, we had to tell them, hold on. First, let's talk about the problem you want to address. And when we got deeper, often we had to tell them that a VR or virtual reality-based learning experience will probably increase learner participation for you. Your learners will probably have a lot of fun trying out the new technology.
Sure.
Yeah. But VR is not the answer to your performance problem, or not the answer to the performance problem you're trying to solve. So that's a point.
Yeah. Thanks, Madhi, thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So exactly to the point that we're trying to make is that yes, the learning experience needs to be fun and engaging, no doubt about that. But at the same time, we cannot lose sight of the ultimate goal of training, which is that it must help improve the knowledge or the skills or the attitude, whatever performance objective that the training wants to achieve. And as just Madhi pointed out, this can happen only when the learning strategies we use are relevant. And not because they're there, they're trending. So I would say they should be relevant, ruthlessly and completely relevant, and beautifully and very harmoniously aligned with the performance objectives that we seek to meet. So yes, fun can be the means to achieving the goal, but it's not a goal by itself.
Okay. All right. So I understand that learner engagement is kind of more complex than it appears, or it's like kind of commonly perceived, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, in that case, if you really want to go deep, okay, and talk about like, what really engages learners, what do we do then? Like, how do we like really decode a learner engagement in that case?
That would be my favorite question, and I'm really glad you asked that. I'll just jump on this opportunity to talk about it a little bit. So learner engagement is a multi-level construct, which means that it occurs on 4 different levels: cognitive, behavioral, emotional, and social. Let me just explain this with the help of an example, right? So let's say that you're a part of an L&D function. Your team has designed an elegant multimodal orchestra of training components. So there are WBTs to look at, there are offline assignments, some videos to watch, even an online forum discussion to respond for the learners. And you see a learner who completes all those activities, WBTs, on time. He watches all those videos and he posts replies on those online discussion as well. Now, would you say that this learner is engaged?
Of course, I'm going to say yes. Everything is there. All right. Why don't we kind of do a poll on this? Okay. All right. Folks, listen to this question again. Let me kind of summarize what you said right now, Gagan. Okay. You have a learner who completes all the training and all the training, all the assignments on time, watches all the videos, even responds to the forum discussions. Is the learner engaged? I would say yes, but let's ask the people here in the audience. Is it a yes or no? Answer your questions. You can actually type in an yes or no over here, folks. What do you guys think? Maybe yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. Maybe. Did he get paid to complete it? Well, sometimes it's like you give it for free. People don't take it seriously. Pay for it. People will definitely complete it. Yeah, that's again another engagement. We have a no also. Okay. Interesting. Okay. There's again another yes. We have a mixer of it. Not sure how. Yes, no. Yes, it is compliance course. Okay. There's a lot of yes and no. You got to clear the arrow over here, Gagan.
Okay, I still say that popular answer is still a yes, right? And that's absolutely right. The learner is without a doubt engaged. We can tell this from his active participation in training. But now the question here is that, is this behavioral engagement that he's exhibited with active participation, do you think that can actually lead to transfer of learning? Can we be sure that the learning occurs? That's the ultimate goal, isn't it?
Right. Yeah.
So I'll just, I'll respond with myself. You don't have to do another poll. So simply completing activities and working through content is not really same as retaining and absorbing and the knowledge and skills that are being taught in the training. So behavior engagement in itself does not really lead to learning or ultimately achieving of performance goals. That's definitely a fact. There is a need to engage learners on a deeper cognitive level to ensure that the transfer of learning occurs. Now, what the hell is that? What is cognitive engagement? So I'm sure all of us will agree that learning takes some effort. It takes some conscious effort for each one of us to learn. Now, learners who are cognitively engaged at that level, they're willing to expend that effort that is required to learn. So they are they're invested in the learning process. As they can see, there is a clear-cut benefit of doing that. So think adult learning principles here. That need to see relevance, context, and need to connect different concepts together, something you already know, and build on it. Merrill's principle of instruction, Bloom's, and all that things. Basically, all the things that we designers have to consider when we're actually designing an instruction to achieve this transfer. Nevertheless, how do we know if a learner is cognitively engaged? Now, that's the question again. We said that a learner who is engaged on a behavioral level displays active participation. So will there be an active participation in this case as well? Hell yeah, there will be. But this time, it will be coupled with good grades in the assessment. There'll be a lot of meaningful feedback, discussion happening around it. And then most of all, there will be achievement of performance goals, as now learners are actually able to transfer whatever they've learned, their newly learned knowledge and skills from the training at work. So, engaging learner on a deeper level, like cognitive level, is very important. And you can just, top that up by engaging them on emotional and social levels as well. So.
Oh, okay, but so you just talked about the learner engagement at the behavior and the cognitive level. You also, can you also tell about a little bit about the emotional and the social aspect of the learner engagement, which you kind of said in the beginning, like there are other two layers also, right?
Sure. So emotional engagement, it basically allows learners to feel more connected with the learning content on an emotional level, I'd say. So, okay. I come from a research background, so I really understand that, and I see this happening a lot. There are many recent studies, around the role of emotions in learning design. So they confirm that whenever a learner is emotionally engaged, he experiences higher motivation to learn, and then he also exhibits deeper processing capabilities of the learning content that's been delivered. So, I'm sorry, I'm going a little neuroscience here.
No, Gagan, just to support your point over there, I'll tell you this thing. Yeah. You're talking about emotional engagement, okay? And one of the first things that kind of comes into, say, I'm from the marketing background. All right, when I have to kind of engage with my audience, with my content, the very first thing that kind of comes to us is the audience, or is the person who's reading it emotionally connected to the content. Boom, if that thing happens, I have many things happening with them. And, there's real engagement happening with that thing. So I absolutely get what you're actually saying there.
So the neuroscience of it, in a very basic level, I'll just say that they experience a dopamine level connection, right, with the learning experience. So what is dopamine? Dopamine is a feel-good hormone which our brains release whenever we, as a reward, whenever, let's say, we're able to solve a problem, we're able to anticipate an event, or, get an answer, right? So, so definitely an emotionally engaged learner, is more connected to the learner, to the learning experience here.
And I'd like to sort of jump in and here and talk a bit more about this engagement and the release of dopamine. So as designers, when we design the course, we design our courses, right? So we often use simple techniques like storytelling approach, or for content that does not lend itself to stories, we use examples and scenarios. Now, these are our little attempts to connect with that audience. As you said, that we try to build that connect, we try to get them emotionally hooked. And, and that's what will take them through the training, sorry. So these are near real life incidents for them, and that make the training relevant for these people. And the audience would be like, oh, I've faced this and I have been in this situation. So this seems relevant to me. So, and that's where the keenness to continue comes from. So talking to the point Gagan was making about that, the dopamine release or whatever, these are small little ways in which we can also sort of emotionally get the people on board with the training. Sorry, Gagan, please continue.
Thanks, Suvi, for sharing that. Now, talking about social engagement, as many of us would intuitively understand, it's about enabling learners to share their ideas and experience with us. Like adults, they all they're different from kids. They carry their own experience. They have ideas about things. Some of them, most of us are experts in our own zone. So we'd like to share. We have this need to share our experiences. So definitely a learner who's engaged in like socially this way will definitely be able to feel more connected to the learner. Now, to sum up about all 4 levels that I just talked about, when learners are engaged on all 4 levels, they experience a joy of learning and sharing. They take accountability of their learning journey, completing milestones, and transferring the newly learned knowledge and skills on the job to improve their performance. So, which really is the ultimate goal for any training intervention that I understand. But then there is a catch. It's not all that simple. Right? Engaging learners on 4 different levels. It takes some amount of a lot of careful planning. It requires instruction to be designed in a way to create opportunities for learners to actually simultaneously tap into all these 4 levels. So yeah, that's how I would
Okay, wait. In that case, maybe you or someone answer this. How do you make that happen? How do you ensure that the experience is fun and also effective? How do you do that? You got to go through all the 4 levels, right? How do you kind of make both the things happen? Gagan, you or anyone can take that question.
I think
I'll take that. I'll take that. Okay, so this is a tricky question, and this is the core of the question that we are here to answer, really try and decipher. So what I can say from my experience is that when a learner is engaged in the learning process, at multiple levels, the experience will automatically become fun, is what I feel.
Yeah.
And then when the learning content itself is relevant, like Surbhi said, when it's relevant to the learning need, it will become effective. The learning experience will become effective. So like you said, Bala, the question is, how do we engage them at all levels, and how do we ensure levels? How do we ensure a relevance? Now, there's no magic formula. I'll just put that out.
I wish
there's no magic.
Okay.
This is not math. Yeah, this is not math. There's no magic formula. So and that is because each workforce training project is unique. The business contexts are unique. The people who run the business and are contributing to the business, their needs, their problems are different. And therefore, the problem that we want to solve for is unique to the organization that we're working for. And therefore, every single learning program that you're planning for your workforce must start with a thorough, robust, rigorous, whatever you call it, an analysis phase. This is something we often miss. We take analysis too lightly, but that is the starting point of true engagement and true, effectiveness. And after the analysis is done, of course, the design thinking helps. Design thinking is a process that is used across industries. It's not just specific to e-learning. And Bala, you will also relate to it. We start by defining the problems. We start by defining the problem statement very clearly, get into the learner's shoes, empathize with them, understand their context, brainstorm to come up with different possible solutions, pick up a solution, do a quick and dirty prototype, see if it works for the audience. That's the ideal way of doing it. And that's how product companies do it, software development companies do it. But the ground reality is quite different for us in the e-learning industry. Often our project life cycles are very, very short. The budgets that we work with, the timelines that we work with are a constraint. And often we cannot go through the entire, design, at least the iterative design thinking process is something that I've not seen happening in all through my career. So what do we do then? How do we solve this problem? Because we do want to make the program engaging and as well as fun, as well as effective. So what do you do? So if I were to pick, one single fundamental principle, I talk about tapping into the learner's intrinsic motivation to do well. And I come to this from the fundamental belief that everyone wants to do well at their job. Everyone wants to do well at their job. Everyone wants to learn. Everyone wants to grow. And the moment your learning program speaks directly to the learner's context and their need, you've got them engaged. When you see how to do something that you're struggling with, when you see it here, you naturally pay attention to it because you're finding the answers that you were struggling with. So when you see, you pay attention. When you're allowed a chance to practice that skill in a safe environment, you want to try it out, you're motivated to try it out. And when you find yourself improving at that skill, you begin to enjoy the experience because it's about your own growth. It's about your own, work. And that's how you have an enjoyable learning experience that was effective because it helped you solve a problem that you were facing at work.
No.
So especially, yeah. So in the context of workforce learning, this works.
Madhuri, I kind of absolutely relate to that. But here I have a bigger question. Okay, so when I say relate to that, because, I have to kind of now design and, I'm kind of working on a program where I have to kind of create a highly engaged, effective, fun, learning program for, say, a bunch of SDRs, which is kind of sales development representative,
right,
for how they kind of take a discovery call or something like that. I got to design a program for that. Now, I know it's kind of too much to ask, but if I have to kind of really design that, how would I put the engagement, effectiveness, and fun into it?
Mm-hmm.
Can you kind of tell a little bit on the process? If that is a real case scenario, how would we go about doing it?
Okay, so this is a question we get asked quite often. Our clients often come to us saying, we have the sales team that needs to be trained and we need something highly engaging. What can you do for us? So to a question like that, there's a standard response, which anyone who has spent enough time in the industry will tell you. So they'll say, we'll go like this. We'll say, okay, there's a sales team. They're always busy, always on the go. They're not people who will read too much. And so let's have this device agnostic, mostly for mobile micro-learning units, and maybe top it up with a capstone simulation. And that will be an effective and engaging experience for them. But then, has the solution really answered the question about engagement and effectiveness? I feel that's not how we, engage people or ensure effectiveness, because the solution we've given is at too much of a high level to really engage them and to really make the training effective. You'll have to go deeper. You'll have to be, you'll have to know who these people are, what is the industry we're talking about, what do they sell, what are the key challenges they face when they're selling. Is this a sales problem? Is this a technology problem? Is this a logistics problem? Or is it a compliance issue? Are there certain softer aspects of selling or handling pressure that is a problem? What knowledge or skills do they need to address this problem? So there are a lot of questions to be answered before we really come to any kind of a concrete solution or design to this. We absolutely must get the complete picture, state the problem clearly before we start brainstorming about learner engagement. And this is a step we cannot skip if we want engaged learners and an effective learning program.
Boy, there's so much to this. I was kind of thinking of, just put up a design and program and just proceed on with that.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep all
So
the points in mind. Yeah, that's a good answer. Thanks a lot, Madhvi. Yeah.
So Bala, your question, and in fact, Madhvi's response is just, I'm recollecting one of my own experiences with one of my very big major clients. So I'd just share that experience here. So we were working with this client. It's a huge and extremely popular logistics company. And they came to us as a very simple ask that they want to develop a training to train their entry-level folks. They basically did a data entry kind of job. And so while this seemed simple enough, but these jobs are very critical because that can, a small mistake, small misses can lead to lots of dollars being spent as fines and in other forms, right? So they said that our folks are millennials essentially, and we have a high churn, which is true today for most organizations, but nonetheless, this was a couple of 2 years back. But so the ask was very simple: design us a nice game which would work for the millennial workforce, right? So, and as Madhvi said, that was there was no digging deep, there was no time spent on analysis, and he said, well, hold on, we are happy to build you a game, right? That's what we are in the business for. But when you dig deep into it, you try to understand the business context and the business problem. When we did that exercise with a couple of their folks, we understood that the problem was not a game-based training as such. They had a training and an effective one or two. It was not game-based, but it was effective. It was showing results. Great. Now, what they needed was that they needed more of improvement in their KPIs. Two key KPIs that they had was, one was productivity, one was accuracy, which would be natural for a data entry kind of job. Now, they said that we essentially are looking to improve our people on that. Now, in all of that discussion, the outcome was that we didn't end up defining or designing a game for them, but the game was more as a supplemental performance tool, which focused essentially on developing those KPIs rather than training them, which was the first stated requirement. So, as Madhvi said, unfortunately, the consensus across most designers in the industry would be that we do not spend adequate amount of time that we should be on analyzing what the exact need is, what the exact business problem is. So yeah, just to add that example coming from Madhvi's point.
Interesting. Thanks for adding that, Surbi. That was really insightful. Okay. I do have a few more questions I kind of noted out, but I do see that there's a lot of questions actually pouring in from the audience also. And we're kind of at the mark, right? 40 minutes mark. And let's kind of keep 20 minutes for the Q&A. You guys okay with that? Yeah, cool. Sure. All right. So I'll just kind of pick up some of the questions, what I have. To all lovely audiences, thank you very much for being so active in kind of sharing a lot of questions over here. Okay, so I'll just kind of randomly take up one by one. There's the first question what we have is why learner engagement may not always translate into performance on the job. Very interesting question. Unfortunately, that's an anonymous attendee was kind of asked. I can't name the person who's over here. But yes, one of you can actually take up that particular question. I'll repeat the question. Why learner engagement may not always translate into performance on the job?
I'd like to respond. So one, I think that reason could be that maybe the designer who's designed the entire training intervention wasn't really able to tap into all four or at least 3 levels of engagement: cognitive, behavioral, and emotional. Mm-hmm. Also, a key point to note here is that ultimately for any learning solution, it has to be designed. It is designed with a clear purpose of improving job performance. Now, which can then further be you can make it more specific. Improving job performance in what terms? You can always. I think we don't really need to go there for this for me to respond to this question. So overall, for any learning solution, it is designed with a key purpose, which is basically to improve job performance. And now this purpose, whatever the purpose is, it is operationalized in terms of learning objectives and the instructional design strategy, which then is accordingly designed to approach those objectives. Now, whenever there is a disconnect between the engagement strategies and the overall purpose of the training, the learning objectives, the learner profile, and all that. So it can always, these strategies, they can always turn out to be irrelevant or rather distracting. Which is a very small example that I can give here is that imagine there is some e-learning course which is presenting behavioral content, and it is designed using, let's say, a game like Candy Crush.
Yeah, that'll be fun. Yeah.
That'll be fun, but can we be sure whether it will lead to improved performance on the job?
Yep. Getting a point. Yes. So yeah, that's kind of the obvious one, right? Like, understand what you need to kind of achieve, go for the program, do that program, and then you kind of go and measure it. Having a different one, because, sometimes what happens is it's like, okay, it's been designed for a long time back, let's kind of keep doing it for the sake of doing it. And let's see if the performance is kind of improving after that. Obviously, big disconnect, right? That's not going to happen. I hope the anonymous attendee kind of got that answer there. All right. With that, let's kind of go to the next question. Okay, now this is an interesting one. Okay. Why can't we have more entertaining approach to learning design? Why are some of the courses so serious? Brilliant question. Sagar, thank you very much for asking. I'm going to repeat that question. Why can't we have more entertaining approach to learning design? Why are some of the courses so serious? Yeah, who wants to take that?
I'll take that because I spoke about the fun part.
Yeah.
So they are not meant to be serious. Agreed. Unfortunately, most trainings that we do or we've seen are serious, and if I may say so, boring also. But we also need to remember that workforce trainings are not developed with the end objective of entertainment. They're not meant to be enjoyable and fun. So they're meant to be effective. And that is what we've been discussing so far, that the trainings need to be enabling our workforce to perform their job. So yes, in that regard, they need to be serious, but at the same time, we do not begin our learning design with learner engagement as the end goal in mind. So there are other key factors that will drive the design. That will be like who's my audience, what is the business need, what are the intended learning outcomes, etc. And again, on a pragmatic side, we look at the budget and timelines, etc. But learner engagement is, then what we build into our training design, fold it nicely so that people are happier about taking those trainings. It does not have that serious, boring tag to it.
Yeah. Pretty cool. I hope that kind of answered. It's like that's kind of very obvious, right? So you got to have that particular balance, and sometimes fun is like too much of fun, but then there is a factor of it. Like they always say it in the industry of when you kind of go, speak in public, right? They kind of say this: when you go and speak on the stage, make sure it's one of these two. Either it's entertaining, people will listen to you, or it is informational. If one of these two are not there, boss, no one is going to listen to you, right? And that's so very obvious, right? Very good. I hope, Sagar, you got the answer for it. We have another question, which is kind of in the comment section over here. I'll kind of take it up. This is from Mondira Sen Deb. Okay. How can we try to achieve at least some levels? I guess. How do we arrive to the conclusion that a learner has been truly engaged? Like the example what Gagan shared, the learner has ticked all the boxes, yet we are not sure whether he or she was truly emotionally engaged. Brilliant question. Gagan, you or anyone can take this particular question.
Yeah, so I think this question is more about, how do you know that whatever you've done in your program is actually working? How do you know whether the learner is truly engaged and whether the strategies have worked? Is there a way to measure this? I think that's the question here. And well, yes, that you can do that by running the program through an evaluation exercise. The standard industry practice is to evaluate a learning program at 4 levels: reaction, learning, behavior, and results. Reaction can be, of course, measured by running surveys to obtain feedback from the participants. That's done immediately after they've gone through the program. Assessments are used to evaluate whether learning has taken place, and assessments can be at different levels again to test if they've been able to apply the concept to a different situation. They will be able to apply the concept to a different situation. Then talking about behavior, the on-the-job performance and behavior is studied to see, or evaluated to see, if the training has had an impact. And finally, the highest level of evaluation is when we try to form a correlation between the learning program and the business results. Now, all of this that I'm talking about, this can be a complex and lengthy process. It's not a simple process, especially the last 2 parts that I talked about finding the correlation between the learning program and the business results. It's not an easy thing to do, but it can be done. And so that's the answer to it.
Brilliant.
Simple way.
Perfect. I hope our guest, Mondrina Sendeb, has kind of got that answered, right? Okay, and in fact, Akhil also kind of agrees with you in giving the feedback part of it, what he kind of said. He's also put that in the comments. So yes, perfectly agreed. Moving to the next question here. This is from Priya. How do you know that the learner is engaged, or if the strategies are working? Is there a way to measure this? Yeah, it's actually
I think we just answered that in the sense that the same thing. Yes, you run the program through an evaluation exercise, which can be a lengthy one. It isn't an immediate thing. It can go on for some time if you have to do the thorough evaluation from end to end at all levels. Yeah.
Good. All right. We have one more question, and we also have time. So yeah. This is a long question. Okay, let me kind of read that. We have seen that working professionals don't really want to engage with learning at the deep academic level, right? How do we make them go through heavy content without some sort of gamification or excitement to keep them engaged? Interesting question, isn't it? I'll repeat that question if in case the audience did not get it. We have seen that working professionals don't really want to engage with learning at the deep academic level. How do we make them go through heavy content without some sort of gamification or excitement to keep them engaged? Yeah. Problem of
I mean, that's a question I'll take again, and this is something that we can't lose sight of at all, because the key thing to understand here is that a working professional's priority is their job. They're not here, unlike a student, a university student, they're not here to learn really. So their priorities are their job, learning's on the side, and a working professional can be or will be motivated to go through any training. Forget about heavy, deep content, light content. They'll be motivated to go through any training only if it's going to help them do their job better. Right. And and also the goal of any learning program for the working professional is to help them perform better, to upskill them so that they can grow into a different role, basically for their growth and business results, of course. So Kathy Moore, I'm sure you've heard of her. She gave us this mantra little over a decade ago. So she says, start by asking, what does the learner need to be able to do on the job? And then ask to do that, what is the information that he or she needs? And include only that information in the program. You don't have to dump all content onto them and then force them to take all the content and then build some gamification around it. Talking about gamification, you could, try and force them to go through the content, but it's not going to serve any purpose. And you could have a reward system, but it's known to be an ineffective approach, because what stops them from saying that, well, I don't want the reward, I don't want the points, and this whole gamification thing has been overused so much in a I'm not saying that gamification doesn't work. It does work in certain contexts, but that's not the way to force people to go through heavy stuff that is not relevant. So this is a long answer to a long question. Basically, to say that, if, again, going back to Surabhi's point, also, if the content is relevant, they'll go through it, and you won't have to force them to go through it. If the content is telling them how to do their job better, you will not have to force them and use any.
That itself is kind of a motivation, right?
Yeah.
In fact, that's one of the things that one of the other person, Kasturi, is kind of asked the question is designing for working profession is very different. And how do you engage such a learner? I think, that's something what you already kind of covered in this question over here. Boss, the carrot is like, you're going to perform better, which means everything is going to be much better in your life. So why don't you kind of take that seriously and proceed on? Yes, that's something really works there. Okay, here's one more question over here from Tejas. Does interactivity play a major role in engaging learners? What do you think we will what do you think will work for millennial professionals to engage on learning platforms? That's an interesting question, right? You have a millennial problem here, making them learn, and what's a major role in engaging them? Who wants to kind of take that question? You want me to repeat it? Does interactivity play a major role in engaging learners? What do you think will work for millennial professionals to engage learning platforms?
Who wants to go to? I've been talking a lot. Surabhi, do you want to take that?
Sure.
A little bit on it, and then fine, you're saying.
Sure. So I'll just begin, Gagan, please chime in. Interactivity, yes, does definitely play a role in engaging the learners. It is one of the most often used strategies that we build into our course, and that comes again from our studies of how we learn. So it is how transference happens, and but you will repeatedly hear all of us talking about as the 10 commandments for us kind of thing. We'll keep coming back to the fact that it should be relevant. So too much of anything is not good. And so interactivity for the sake of interactivity doesn't work. Introduce it where you want the learner to participate, and we space it out evenly in our learning, so that there's not too much of it. Overdose just kills it. And there has to be the right amount. It's like spicing or garnishing something. It just has to be the right amount, right, for it to be engaging. And coming back again, it needs to be relevant. So I just cannot have, an interactive kind of a question or a drag and drop kind of an exercise, any kind. Interactivity essentially is where the user interacts with the training. So just to add, because we're convinced that will make the training interactive, that is not the correct approach. So that's my two bits on it. Gagan, do you want to add?
A small little point here. So whenever we're designing an instruction for millennials, ideally we should keep in mind that they have even shorter attention span.
True. Yeah.
You compare it with our generation, we can focus on some things for
millennials.
Logically chunked smaller nuggets, that would be one, and logically spaced out again. So that will be an important factor to consider. So you have to design the whole training in a way where you're able to see that this portion can go as a video, this portion can go as a 10-minute WPT, this portion can go as a e-read or something like that. So one, you bring in variation, or you make it multimodal. So that can also keep the, interest level intact. Two, it'll definitely make cater to their shorter attention span. And again, neuroscience backs this. Interleaving spaced delivery of content definitely improves knowledge transfer. So for us, ultimately, it's about knowledge transfer and retention. We just have to keep our focus on engaging them. Entertaining is never the purpose. We're not in the business of promotional content. Let's be clear on that.
Understood. Very good. I hope that kind of answered. Yeah, Tejas says that. That's a great advice. Thanks a lot. We do have another 4 minutes, so I'll kind of take. We have a few more questions, but so I'll kind of take a few more questions over here. All right. This is another question for Priya. What is that one thing companies designing learning program should not do? I mean, we've been talking about what they should do. Here's a question: what we should not do. I think that's an interesting question. Yeah, who wants to go with that?
I'll take that. Okay, yes. So, like I said, what they should not do is jump to a conclusion about a solution without going deep and doing a thorough analysis. What they should not do is start by saying, oh, I'll build you a simulation. That's not that's not the first step. The first step is also to always to, get into the shoes of the learner, find out what the business is, really do your homework. And that's the first step. So these are two really big mistakes that companies that design learning make and should not make if they want the learning to be effective and engaging. Yeah.
Okay. So to that point, exactly, just don't jump to a solution without trying to understand the problem first. Focus on the
exactly.
problem first.
Exactly.
Good. And Gagan smartly added up that never skip analysis over there. Got to be technically sound there to kind of look into the analysis there. So that's pretty cool. Okay. And we have 2 minutes and a couple of more questions over here. Okay. So I kind of go with that. So is it possible to coach people with learning platforms and not just training? That's another one from Sagar. Is it possible to coach people with learning platforms and not just training?
Okay, Sagar, could you explain the question a little better, because I haven't. So are you saying that is it possible to train people on platforms that are used for learning? Is that what your question is?
I think that's this question. Maybe let's see if we kind of clarify that. He's kind of asked another question also. What are the different levels of interactivity that can be added to make the engaging content? Engaging content. What are the different levels of interactivity that can be added to make engaging content?
So this concept of levels of interactivity is something that we've come up with more from the perspective of effort estimation and things. But if we're talking about true learner engagement and effectiveness, which is the topic today, the kinds of interactivity that we'll use will totally depend on the performance problem that we're trying to solve and the content that we want the learners to engage with. There are a whole lot of ways in which we can build the interactions. Again, there's no formula here. Totally depends on what the objective is, what the performance goal is. For example, if it's something very tangible, if it's some motor skill you want to train them on, the kind of interactivity will be probably, you'll use a 3D kind of an environment where you're able to move parts, and that's when probably you might also use technology like virtual reality. So that's an interactivity that would work for that sort of a problem. So it's you cannot really define levels in that sense, really, without knowing what problem is it that you're trying to solve.
Just a point to add here, I see Sagar says that training and coaching is kind of different. How do you use interactivity to coach your employees? So that's absolutely right. Training and coaching has, I would say, initiatives are two different kind of initiatives. Coaching is when you're focusing more on one individual. Training is when you're addressing, training needs of, let's say, a group of people. So the kind of interactivities which are defined or we use for training initiatives won't really translate well into the coaching scenario. So with coaching in mind, you've got to think different. You need to have a different perspective when you're thinking about coaching.
Perfect. Brilliant answers over here. Okay, and we are almost at the end of the time what we kind of have it. All right, we do have some more questions, and I think we will kind of take that. Do we have time for one more, Madhuri? Can we take one more? We have one from Shrikant, and let's kind of try that one last question, and then we kind of conclude here. How important do you think is making content visually appealing? I think that's an interesting.
Yeah, very, very good question. Yes, so I think it is very important. It's very important. So all this discussion was not about saying that media, the use of media is not important. It's absolutely important. It makes the experience a lot richer, especially if the visuals are, again, relevant and tied to the learning objectives. You can use visuals in a great way to explain a concept. But what we're trying to say here is mere visually appealing content without context, without relevance is not a good idea.
Right.
I hope that answers your question.
We got the answer over here, Shrikant. And with that, let's kind of conclude it over here. But I'm not going to leave you guys without one last question. You guys seen the movie Matrix, right? They put a chip inside and, boss, I got the language learned or the skill learned. How far or how close are we towards that particular technology of learning things, putting a chip in the brain and getting things done?
Oh, not very far.
May not be, really may not be.
Yeah, not very far.
That's interesting.
So don't imagine yourself to be a Neo yet, but yeah, we have a long way to go.
All right. I think Ellen is already working something on that.
If you can reach Mars, you can definitely, attain this. The chip thing is just every sci-fi movie.
Yep. I want to just put on the chip, get everything up, upload it, and get this work done.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much, the panels here and all the audiences. Thank you very much, Madhvi, Surbhi, and Gagan for patiently answering all the questions that what we had. And audiences, if you kind of think that we kind of prepare these questions and come, no, like I said, we are colleagues, and we wanted to kind of have an interaction of something normally what we normally do it in office when we kind of have a client, and when we kind of talk about something. These are the way how the kind of conversation goes, and that's exactly how it was over here. All right. Fantastic. Thank you very much once again, all the panels. And the audiences, you've been so kind in asking, staying till the end. I see a good number of people here and asking some very relevant and interesting questions. Really appreciate that. And to kind of put another information, you should be kind of getting a recording of this in 24 hours. But here's the most important thing. In case if you are a person in your company or in your organization who kind of, design your, learnings, or your coaching, or your your next program, your learning program, or your training program, I would suggest that you should you can talk to one of our experts and get your questions answered. And these are experts who kind of work behind the scene, and we can actually work with you to understand and help you kind of put a path to make that particular program live. I'm putting a link in the chat. Now, this is a link where you can absolutely go and choose a slot for a 15 minutes discovery slot, this we kind of call it. An expert would kind of talk to you, understand what is your need, and help you kind of direct to the right person and who can help you design the right program for you. All right. That's what Hurix has been doing the last 22 years. Amazing people have a amazing enterprise, and Fortune 500 companies have actually benefited from all the things what these amazing folks have actually done. If you're looking for one solution, there's one slot, the Calendly link over there. Click on it, choose a slot which kind of suits your particular timing, and we can talk further and much more elaborated on all those things what we spoke right now. All right. With that, let's kind of conclude. Once again, thank you, everyone. I hope the session was really, informative. I definitely had a lot of fun. Okay, and I hope the same with the audiences too. Thank you once again, panelist Madhvi, Shurbi, Gagan. Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.